This video comes from my Archaeology Corroborates the Bible series. Entries in this series are based on the book Unearthing the Bible, written by Titus Kennedy. Kennedy looks at 101 archaeological discoveries that bring the Bible to life. Dr. Titus Kennedy is a professional field archaeologist, an adjunct professor at Biola University, a research fellow at Discovery Institute, and has been a consultant, writer, and guide for history and archaeology documentaries and curricula. Kennedy currently directs archaeological projects in Bible lands, and he has researched and photographed artifacts from around the world. Artifacts left behind from the vanished ancient world of the Bible have been found and recovered through archaeology. What is an artifact? In simple terms, an artifact is an ancient object made or modified by humans, and many have been found, especially in recent years, at archaeological sites around the world. Artifacts include statues, altars, jewelry, weapons, tools, inscriptions, paintings, coins, scarabs, tablets, papyri, stelae, reliefs, and pottery, showcasing the artistic and technological prowess of the ancients. But more importantly, artifacts tell stories of the past. They serve as both visual and informational aids that provide insight into that ancient context and toward an accurate understanding and interpretation. The Bible is a collection of books written millennia ago in places and cultures far removed from modern readers, but artifacts can give us essential knowledge of the ancient world and help us avoid the problem of unconsciously or inadvertently viewing a passage or book in the context of a modern society and time. Because the Bible contains stories from the ancient world, written in a style different than the method of modern historians and paired with theology, many have assumed that the narratives in the Bible are myth, legend, and propaganda instead of accurate history. In fact, the majority of scholars, most media and educational sources, and many in the general public regard the Bible as a fairy tale and frequently portray it as unimportant or irrelevant beyond literary and religious studies. For years, the Bible's been routinely attacked and disregarded on the basis of history or archaeology. And yet, when people look into what archaeologists have unearthed, a different story comes to light, showing that instead of fiction and fairy tales, archaeology indicates that the Bible preserves an accurate recounting of the history addressed in its pages. Specifically, hundreds of artifacts from the distant past have demonstrated the events, people, and places in the Bible to be historical. We look at Pharaoh and the hardening heart, the negative confession, referring to the episodes from the story of Exodus. The weighing of the heart ceremony in ancient Egypt was a procedure that the Egyptians believed occurred after death in the underworld, and it would judge if an individual was allowed to pass on to a paradise or the fields of Aaru based upon the deeds in their life. Associated spells were found in the Book of the Dead, and it was connected to the 42 negative confessions, which seem to have originated around 1570 BC, at the beginning of the 18th Dynasty, the period in which Moses was born. Depicted on papyri and the walls of tombs, the weighing of the heart typically showed the deceased in front of scales, with their heart weighed against the feather of Ma'at, truth, order, justice, in the presence of the god Anubis, the demon Ammit, and the god Osiris. One of the most famous of these depictions is found in the Book of the Dead, chapter 125, prepared for Hunefer, an Egyptian scribe who lived around 1300 BC. The book was illustrated in full color with accompanying hieroglyphic text on a long roll of papyrus. The section of the papyrus showing the weighing of the heart process measures about 34.4 inches long, or 87.5 centimeters, and 15.7 inches tall, or about 40 centimeters. The paint colors have all been exceptionally preserved except for the fading of yellow. During the process of confessions, the individual would recite a list of 42 sins that they did not commit, and although the number remained consistent, the list of sins varied from person to person. The focus was on intent rather than result, which means it was easier to access paradise than a standardized list of sins committed. One spell even invoked the heart not to weigh down the balance nor testify against the deceased, and if effective, this would allow the individual to pass the test even if certain sins had been done. On the scales overseen by Anubis, the heart would be weighed against the feather, since the Egyptians believed that the heart was made heavy with sin. This is why the heart was left in mummified bodies while other organs were removed. If judged pure, indicating virtuous life, the heart would not outweigh the feather, and that person could proceed to Osiris and go on to paradise. However, if the heart was heavy and weighed more than the feather of truth, the individual was judged to be evil and unworthy. The consequence for failing the test was that the heart would be consumed by Ammit, a strange demon goddess, shown as a creature who is part a lion, crocodile, and hippopotamus. The papyrus of Annie also has a famous depiction of the weighing of the heart from the same general period, although many pieces of artwork or texts describing the ritual have been discovered in Egypt. Ancient texts vary about the status of the deceased after the heart was devoured, but either the soul would be restless forever or the person would cease to exist. The Egyptian theological concept of the heart being made heavy by evil deeds or sin is alluded to in the Exodus story, when Moses wrote that the Pharaoh made his heart heavy when he rejected the messages and warnings from God spoken through Moses and continued to disbelieve God even through the punishments of the plagues. So this negative confession artwork makes veiled reference to the Exodus story. Exodus chapter 8 verse 32 says, Pharaoh hardened his heart, literally made his heart heavy this time also, and he did not let the people